Good morning. It's just after 5 AM. It's the 24th of July and we had the most amazing storm last night. Sometime after about 2 AM, the heavens opened. We had thunder, lightning, torrential rain, the works. So I'm out nice and early before the heat gets up and the humidity makes it quite unbearable. I'm out for a little bit of hedge bothering. We'll see what's happening up in the woods and the lanes in my bit of Herefordshire. Come with me, let's see what we can find. This bridge crosses the River Loch. It's a very beautiful river. We're lucky to have it on our doorstep. Most of the River Loch is a site of special scientific interest and we get all sorts of creatures here. So we get otters and there are crayfish. Very interesting river with some quite fun folklore attached to it. It's even got its own mermaid, according to legend, in some areas. See what's happening on the other side of the bridge. No otters today that I can see, but the water is high with the extra rain that we had overnight, and that means there's probably all sorts of interesting things that have been washed downstream. Might have a little poke around in there later. For now though, I'm heading up the road and I'm going to cut off up a bridle path and we'll see what's happening up in the fields and the woods. One thing that the storm last night did is bring down an awful lot of hazelnuts. Hazelnuts, cob nuts, we've got lots of them around here and it's been a really good year for them. It's not very in focus, is it? Anyway, loads and loads of them on the trees at the moment. They're still a little bit underripe, but as we can see here, the squirrels aren't letting that stop them, and that's a sign to me that these are well worth eating. I'm going to pick some later when I go past a tree that I know's got some really nice ones, and I think later today I'll be making things with unripe hazelnuts, which are really delicious. For now though, it's a heads up to me to watch out, because it's time to beat the squirrels to the start of this year's harvest. About to head off into a deep dark tunnel of woods along the bridle path, but on my way there let's just stop and have a little look, see how the nettles are doing. It's been an excellent year for nettles as well. All the fibre I've had recently has been beautiful and strong and straight, and here in the slightly shady edge of the woodlands we get really nice nettles. They're long, they're a bit droopy today, that's the weight of the water on them. But they've grown in shade, so they've grown tall, they're quite slim. Again, I'm going to be out a little bit later. I'll be picking some nettles, because you can never have too much nettle fibre for making cordage in the winter. Let's go and see what we can see down in the deep dark woods. I love this sort of pathway. It's always a bit of a fairy place. You're not quite sure what you're going to meet down in the woods. Are we going to meet creatures? Are we going to meet elves? Are there goblins? Who knows? I expect I'm the scariest thing out here, really. Now there's a few branches down, so I'm going to turn this off for a bit so I'm clear on the other side. Plenty more signs around that summer is progressing. Only a few weeks ago, these were frothy white elderflowers and I was making elderflower wine. Now the berries have formed really nicely. A little way to go before they're ripe, but time to start planning those autumn preserves. Things like elderberry syrup, which is great for coughs and sore throats, elderberry wine, very rich and port-like, jellies, jams, all sorts of nice things will be coming along before you know it. This is the first time I've filmed with one of these gimbals on my camera and it's a little bit odd. I'm still trying to get used to the way it adjusts everything and trying hard not to look too much at the camera screen while I'm walking, otherwise I'm going to walk smack into a branch or end up flat on my face, and whilst that might make for a really good comedy video, it wasn't quite what I had in mind. We're nearly through this patch of woods now. It's a really interesting little combination of domestic planting and wild things. Oh, blackberries are looking good. Lots and lots of flowers still, but there's absolutely no doubt that the blackberries are forming up. That's another one that's not going to be very long at all before we start picking. Just come through the woods now. I've shut the gate behind me. Very important to always pay attention to the countryside code and shut gates. One of the things I love about this path is that overshadowing the end of it is this lovely little walnut tree. Where we were before in Wales, I didn't have walnut trees easily accessible, and I've really been enjoying having access to unripe walnuts for racino, for pickled walnuts, for dye, and just generally enjoying this very, very beautiful tree. No visible walnuts in this one because I think I had them all off last week. And the next bit of my walk is going to take me up through this really very, very nice field. As I came through the gate a moment ago, a hare shot across in front of me, which is bad timing. Of course, I didn't have the camera on. I'll probably turn the camera off while I go up the hill, because I'm not that fit at the moment, and you'll hear me puffing and panting, and that's not any fun for anybody. So we'll have a look at the top and see what the views are like. Just slightly out of breath at the top of a hill, but this is my reward. It's a very, very beautiful area. The mist is rising, there's lakes over in the distance there, we might see them in a bit. Church straight in front of me. Lots of fields are just starting to harvest. There's a lot of evidence that the combines had been out and the grain was being taken back when I was out earlier. The hill that you can just see in the distance there, the road that runs up next to it, is locally known as God Almighty Hill. Because in a fairly flat parish, if you hike up that first thing in the morning, you're swearing by the time you get to the top. This one's not nearly as bad by comparison, but you do get a very lovely view from the top here. So I'm disappearing off now into that far corner, which is going to bring me out on the other side of the hill, and I should get really nice views over parkland and farmland. There are plenty more signs that autumn's on its way. This small tree that I'm passing is a damson, and the damsons are lovely and green, but they're full size, giving me an indication that by the time they've turned purple, there's going to be a really nice harvest there. They'll be ready probably in a month, maybe a month and a half, late August, early September perhaps. Might even be a bit later than that. They can run quite well into the autumn. There's a lot of damson planted locally. We're in an orchard area, and damsons used to be considered a really, really good protection hedge for orchard fruits. They're spiny, they're resistant to wind and things, so you get lots of damsons in this part of the world, which is great because damson chutney is definitely one of our favourites. I'm going to have plenty of damson trees to choose from a bit later in the year. So we'll carry on, and the other side of this little bit of path will bring us out into the open. Out on top of the hill, and the sun has come up. How very, very beautiful. It's going to be quite dazzling when we turn around into this now. Beautiful. It's definitely going to be another hot day today. I think it could get up to as much as 30 degrees, which is way hotter than the likes of me can cope with. So I'm getting my walk done now, and I shall very much enjoy sitting inside with my projects. I think this particular field of wheat looks pretty much ready for harvesting. I expect we'll see the combines up here soon as it's dry enough. They're certainly busy in the area at the moment. Let's see what's through the gap at the top. The next field on my walk has got sweet corn growing in it. This hasn't been in all that long, and it's growing really fast. The last time I was out this way, it wasn't nearly this big. I can hear a road in the distance, and you can't see it because of the mist, but down in that hollow is Hampton Court Castle, which has beautiful gardens, lovely, lovely grounds. Lining this part of my walk are some very beautiful old oak trees. Now, I'm very fond of oak trees, and I've been keeping a careful eye on these. I could really do with finding one with a good crop of oak galls. I could do with a bit of fresh ink before too long. This one hasn't got any, but what it has got is a little fairy hole who lives in here. Can't see anybody looking back at me at the moment. I think bunnies have a little entrance to their warren in here. Always fascinated by this sort of hole in a tree. All sorts of creatures will use it, and the number of species that make use of an oak tree is quite staggering. They're not just impressive things in the landscape, they're home to so many different species of insect and animal, even other plants. But looking up into the canopy may be a lot of fun. It's not getting us much further with our walk. I'm about at the highest point of my walk now, and the sun is already starting to drive the moisture off, which is why we've got such lovely mists down in the hollows. It's very diverse farmland around here. I'm probably going to meet cows in one of the next field. There's got lots of deer, rabbits, hare, all the little creatures that live in association with very generous farmland that gives them all the things that they need. And there's also wonderful wild plants. So the brambles, we were looking at those earlier, these ones actually are still good for cordage. Lovely, smooth, well, relatively speaking, once the prickles are off, long, soft new growth. That would make really, really nice string. So I might come back, another walk. Oh, that was a bit fast. Still getting the hang of this gimbal. I might come back later with some secateurs and some heavy gloves, didn't bring any today, and have some of these long strands. Take the prickles off, make nice cordage. A lot of things I'm talking about I do actually have videos for on my channel, and the ones that we're not there for yet, we will get to in due course. These hawthorn berries are really well developed. They're turning red already. I wonder if we're going to have an early autumn. Wouldn't surprise me, it's been so hot, but we've also had moisture in a way that we didn't last year, and that really can make a big difference. Another gate, I shall hop through that, and I'll see you half a mile further up the track. Oh, I don't know if we'll see him. There's a beautiful fox just past that gate in front of me. Now then, I'm not using the gimbal for this, I don't have time to set it up, but I'm hoping we'll see him. Where are you, Mr. Fox? No, I think he's disappeared off into the shrubbery. Oh, what a shame, he was beautiful, and the light, he was just standing there, and the light caught him, and his beautiful red fur, absolutely glowing. It's one of the things I love about this time in the morning. You do see wonderful, wonderful creatures, and of course they don't want to be bothered by us, so I can quite understand him not staying for his photo call. Oh, what a shame, I would have liked to have shared that with you. Right, another gate, then we're going to cross this field. There's usually cows in here, so I will have to keep my eyes open. It's never worth getting on the wrong side of cows, although they're a very, very gentle bunch. If you don't pester them, and will disappear off into the woods. I've climbed to the highest point in my morning walk. It's all downhill from here, and a lot of it now is going to be downhill through woodlands. I can hear cows on the other side of that copse, so I'll just keep an eye open for them. They won't bother me if I don't bother them. where we're heading is that stile down at the edge of the woods. Now, whether I can climb a stile with a camera in my hand or not could be entertaining, could be an opportunity to see Sally fall flat on her face in a cowpat, which, well, there are worse things to happen first thing on a Tuesday morning. Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, yes. I have no idea what day of the week it is. It's trouble with early morning hedge-bothering. Now, for those of you not from our neck of the woods, this is a very, very common thing to find on British footpaths. Stiles like this are set up so that the livestock can't get out, but people and dogs can. This is quite a nice one. Sometimes they're a lot less stable than this. Right, camera in one hand. It's quite slippery underfoot as well with the rain. There we are, safely over without making a complete idiot of myself. And we're in the woods. I adore woodlands. I love the sound of them, I love the smell of them, I love the feel of them. All the amazing things that live in a British woodland. This one is a little bit overgrown. The footpath, well, it is here, you can see it just ahead of us, but as you can see, it's not the most widely used path. A fair few locals use it, but not so many that the shrubbery is kept out. At some point somebody's done some quite sensible improvement work, and there are little sections where the banks have been shored up so you don't disappear off down the hill. I am going to probably turn the camera off for a little while till I get to a more open stage, and we'll stop and we'll see what lovely things there are growing in here. Maybe meet some of the creatures that live here. I'm standing here pretty much in the middle of a fallen oak tree. It's been down a little while. I think it came down possibly a month or so ago in an earlier storm. But it's not exactly blocking the path, but I can definitely see that I'm going to have to do a little bit of climbing to get past it. There are some really beautiful lichens growing on the bark here. Now, quite a lot of these are useful for dyes. You've got to be very careful collecting them. They grow slowly, and you don't really want to be collecting them from areas where they're still really, really viable. But as this tree ages and starts breaking down, I'll be able to come and harvest just a tiny bit, nothing too much. We've got lots of more brambles growing through. Still no oak galls. I will find some. I know we've got some in the area. But as this tree starts to decay, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing really interesting... You can see what's broken off there. There's the main tree. It's a big branch that's down. We'll start seeing new funguses growing. All sorts of interesting things. I'm collecting spider webs at a great length. Can't show you it because the camera angle's all wrong, but I've got a beautiful little crab spider who's sitting on my microphone, wondering what on earth's going on and just hitching a ride. It's not doing any harm. It's nothing big and scary. Even the birds are quite quiet this morning. I think they all had such a disturbed night that they're taking the time over their coffee this morning. Right, I'm going to climb through these branches and see if I can find the path again. As we get nearer to the edge of the woodland, you start seeing quite different plants. So this is St John's wort, this is Hypericum perforatum. If I were to pick a leaf and hold it up to the light, you'd see tiny little dots in it. It's one of the midsummer herbs, lots and lots of folklore associated with gathering it and with the use of it. It's soaked in oil, it produces a red oil, which is used by herbalists as an anti-inflammatory. Like all herbal things I might mention, don't take my word for it, do your own research. What works for me may not work for you, but it does turn up a lot in medieval medical texts, but also with association with things like elf shot, because the leaves can make you photosensitive. So cattle that had rubbed up against it or eaten it, particularly prized white one, could end up getting sunburn, and people would assume that they'd been elf shot. We've also got wild clematis growing here. So this is old man's beard when it turns to those fluffy seed heads later in the year. But at the moment, wild clematis, very pretty in the woodland. Bit of a pest if it gets all through your hedge starts climbing over your house. But lots of really nice plants around here. Nearly down through the path now. We're coming out onto the road any moment. And like so many places in this part of the world, we've got a very beautiful stone right at the bottom. I don't think it's a waste stone in the usual sense. Can't see any carvings on it. Oh, silly gimbal. Still getting the hang of this. But it does serve to mark the path up into the woods really nicely. The rest of my walk back is going to be on roads now, although it's still early. Oh. Shouldn't have too many people to share the road with. A lot of my early morning hedge-bothering walks are on the roads and footpaths. I don't mind as long as it's not too busy. We're not too crazy an area. We get a lot of tractors, you get the odd lorry, you get the early morning commuters, but certainly at this time of the morning there's very little about, apart from me and the birds and my feet squelching because my boots are full of water having come down through the soggy woods. But that's all right. Everywhere you go in this part of the world there's something interesting in the fields. There's a lovely orchard here. Buddleia overhanging the hedge. Oh, can't work out why that judders on me occasionally. Buddleia's brilliant for the butterflies. It's been a good year for butterflies, lots of them. I expect there's lots of rabbits zooming round under the apple trees at the moment. In the spring, the blossom along here is absolutely fantastic. And if you get the sunlight on it just right, you can really smell it. We're running parallel to the lakes here, so there's a lot of water in this area. And that does give us this very lush greenery. It takes a lot for it to really get desiccated around here. I'm going to go past the local war memorial. Like most British villages, there's a memorial that was set up in the Great War and then adapted later. And this is the village wellhead. Sadly, the water from it is no longer considered to be drinkable, but really nice that we still have this in the village. I found some villagers to talk to. Good morning, cows. How are your babies? Oh, they're looking beautiful. Hello, small cows. Oh, yes, you're being very busy. Oh, they're beautiful. Haven't you got lovely calves? Don't worry, I'm not going to pester anyone. Just wanted to admire you and show you off to everyone. There's always something new to see around every corner. Some beautiful teasels here. Lovely fat bumblebee foraging for nectar on them. It's only just drying out enough to make it worth foraging, I think, for the bees this morning. It was so wet first thing. But the teasels are brilliant for insects and wildlife. This is the common teasel. It's not the fuller's one. It's got straight spikes. They're quite soft. The ones that used to be used in the textile industry are very stiff and barbed. You don't see them commonly as wild plants, but this particular form of teasel, well, it's everywhere in Britain. And those purple flower heads are absolutely stuffed full of nectar. It's just what these hungry bees are after. Home stretch now. Only a little way to go before I get back to my own patch of the village. You'll have walked about 4 miles from me by the time we get back, so I hope you've enjoyed your little stroll this morning. You're certainly going to deserve your cup of tea. I know I will. I think it's time for a spot of breakfast. Hope you've enjoyed this little hedge bothering video. We'll do it again sometime.